Okay. This is going to be interesting.
600-pound fish.
Oh. Is this a thing that y'all already know about? The 600-pound? You
I
just
don't think so.
Okay.
I don't know anything about
Okay.
it.
Am I last on the 600-pound fish list? All right, tell us about the 600-pound fish. Let's start with that.
Okay. I had a dream one time that this was 2011. I was in Switzerland, and I had a dream one night that I was on this boat, and these fishermen and myself helped catch this fish that was 600 pounds. It was really heavy to reel in. And when we got it in, it was this big. Right? It was this big.
Okay.
But it weighed 600 pounds.
Mm.
So it was like something that when I woke up, I kind of knew what it meant, though. Immediately.
Okay.
You know how when a dream happens, sometimes you just sometimes know what it is. Yeah. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And it had to do with race. It was like it had to do with like when you look at me, right, or you look at Yusuf, and in a Western American context or a Western context in general, people are either going to call us black or African American, or Negro, whatever, colored, whatever they're gonna say. People of color, BIPOC, whatever the fuck.
I like that you said Western context.
Yeah.
I'll take Negro.
Okay. Yeah. But that's what the 600-pound fish was. It was like slapping a label on something, calling it black, right? Mm-hmm. That might have roots in Ireland as well as America, as well as Africa, as well as, you know what I mean? Yeah. But in this context, it's just black. Yeah. Or Negro. And then that becomes our outer stamp to the world and our inward stamp. Mm. So it scrubs a little bit all the other things that make us up.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like, of course, there's African descent.
Right.
There's Native American descent.
Yeah, there's a lot there.
There's European descent. There's South American descent. So there's a lot, but in American context, that doesn't matter.
Right.
Black. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So you could be, check this out. This is where it gets crazy. You could be the descendant of a king. Mm. You could be the descendant of a European king.
Yeah.
Right? And be black in America. And being treated like this by people who a couple centuries ago were your ancestors' peasants.
Yeah. That's,
you know what I'm saying?
Interesting.
Interesting stuff, man.
Yeah. Definitely.
You know. So that's the 600
You and these
pound
animals,
fish.
man. They be coming to you.
Yeah. I don't know what that dream was really about, but that's what I got from it. I made a painting about it.
Maybe it wasn't even pounds. Maybe it's years.
Maybe so.
Yo, we need to start every episode off with a story like that. And get it animated. That's how that needs to happen.
Animation is key.
Yeah, that'd be perfect.
Yeah.
All right, I am Young Arcader, a.k.a. Kayda Plus. Please call me Kayda. I am here with
Yusuf Abdul Lateef
and
Charlie Lambert
and
Asa Jackson.
Listen, I had okay, Asa. Let's stay on Asa. Asa called me and said, "Hey, either I want you to take some pictures or could you take some pictures, whatever the case may be." And I'm like, all right, cool. I'm always like, all right, cool. He didn't tell me that this was a moment to win awards. He didn't tell me this was an award-winning moment. He just said, I know he's going to say, okay, I know you can go and see it, da-da-da-da-da. So I'm taking the picture. I'm like, man, Asa, he didn't even tell me. I was telling him, it's like when you tell somebody about a show or a concert and like, yo, you need to go, just go. And then after the concert, they call you like, yo, you didn't tell me it was this crazy. That's what I felt while I was taking those pictures. Wow. Like, man, this dude off doing something else. And he just put me in this situation. Yo, it was an amazing experience taking those pictures. Like, I love taking pictures anyway, but to have something different to take pictures of, like, that's the thing. It's like, where do you find that? And it takes somebody brave to make something different. I told you, one of the few things I told you, because I didn't want to spoil the interview, it was like, immediately it was like walking into a restaurant, like an expensive restaurant, and it being a very little bit on the tape, on the plate, and there being like a little drizzle of whatever. And it's like, man, I'm about to pay $1,000 to eat this little bit on the plate. Okay, well,
gold leaf pumpkin
right,
sorbet,
right. But it might taste like the richest in flavor thing you've ever had in your life, but it's just so little of it. And that white space with the little things that you had, I missed a few things when I was taking pictures. It was amazing. I don't know why you did what you did. And I can't wait to find out. Okay, I want to start with this particular piece. The piece with the brick and a shell sitting on top of something. All right, so I'm looking at that. I'm glancing at it as I go by it. But I'm like, okay, that's going to be cool when I get to it. That's going to be really cool when I get to it. And each different angle showed something different. Like, okay, I'm going to get to it. I thought it was like a brick you sculpted into like a teddy bear or something. All right, with like a parrot on the shoulder. I'm gonna pull it up if I can find that one picture so you can see what I'm talking about. But that piece, is there a name for that piece? Do you have a name?
No, none of it's named yet, just because that's usually like a after thing. And I sort of just finished everything yesterday night. So I got to sit on the images that you took and sort of spend some time figuring out what I want the names to be.
Okay. So the thing I think about with that piece is just like the false idea of potential. Because I thought it was going to be, I really thought it was going to be like some kind of teddy bear or something when I finally looked at it. You know what I'm saying? Like you see the angles, and it's like, oh, this is something sculpted particular, like something that I've seen before, but I don't know what it is yet. And when I look at it, it's like, okay, it's not.
I can see why you say that.
Yeah, like that. This part right here looks like the legs, and maybe that's the top of the head or the bird. Let me see if I can. You see what I'm saying? And I think about how we look for the best in people sometimes. And what we get is a brick. Like, why do we keep doing this to ourselves?
Searching for inner meaning, deeper meaning when the obvious is there.
Right.
But I think that's twofold, because on the one hand it is a brick. Right, but on the one hand, it's not a brick. You know,
right?
It's a lot that goes behind that. You know what I mean? Just like if it was a person that might be daft or might seem like a dense personality, there's still a whole lot there to be excavated. Right. You know, a whole lot.
And it might already be on the surface. It's just that I'm not at a point in life where I can see it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, looking at it from this angle right here, it's like when I get up to the top, I'm going to see what it actually is. You know what I mean? And it's like, okay, it actually is a brick. And I love it. I love it.
I think that just makes me think of this thing that Yusuf said immediately upon entering the gallery, which is probably the favorite thing I've ever heard somebody say about anything I've ever done. He walked in and he said, "You have some audacity." That was it.
Can you explain? I would love the explanation.
You ever look at something and you're like, I see a face.
All the time.
All the time, right?
Yeah.
Like, to be able to make something where you can't see a face.
Yeah.
You can destroy that thing. Like, it takes a certain level of absurdity. You know what I mean? To break out of that. I mean, I make faces all the time on purpose, you know. Even like the wall piece on the side, you know, where it's just a cobbling of faces. And even we're seeing faces where there was not even, you weren't even meant to see a face.
Yeah.
But like this work here, it's like, you know, this is a brick. You know, this is a roof shingle.
Yeah.
This is box tape.
Exactly.
This is a machete.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, and it's not, and I feel like it's outside of the, you know, well, I think, in I see, I mean, me and Charlie are buddies, you know, and I just kind of see the comedy in it too.
Yeah.
You know, and it's refreshing because everything's so like weighty, you know, and to be able to fight that impulse to, you know, make a thing mean a thing, you know, but it's still present. So I walked in, I was just like, this dude here,
Yeah.
like you got some nerve, man. But I mean, it's what I expected. It's what I expected. I didn't know there was no expectations, but I did know that it would be. I would be walking into a foreign language. You know what I mean? Like,
That's a nice way to put it.
Yeah, yeah.
A foreign language.
I think that's the biggest compliment that somebody can give their work is that it's their own language that not everybody speaks, but there's something going on. You don't need to speak the language to see that there's a language.
It's a language.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then slowly you can start to piece that together. And I think that's why this whole thing excited me it was a chance to really like pack one cohesive space with all these gestures that I saw relating to each other. And thus like present my language in one space and have people just enter that and I guess see, you know, what everybody's point of interest is.
So let's talk about these objects, right, for a sec. Because like, so when they were getting ready to come to the residency, which that's the context of this whole thing, right?
Yeah.
It's a residency exchange between the Can Foundation and Visible Records. Okay. But these artists are coming from all over the country for this, which is really exciting for me because we're getting a sprinkle of other areas and cultures mixed in and hopefully leaving some. And I knew that Charlie was coming with a sort of like a sculptural context, some found object things like that. But I didn't know exactly what it would be. And now, and I don't know if he knew what it would be exactly either. So let's talk about the process that you've been in this whole week, right? Like, what was your mindset like coming in?
Yeah, so I sort of spoke to you and Kira about this idea of a loose framework for what I was trying to tackle when I was here, which is there's this idea with the residency where you'll go to a place, right, and you're supposed to make work that interacts with that place. But there's a certain ridiculousness or hubris, I guess, in trying to like pinpoint a place if you're only there for a week. And it's a conversation in sculpture at large. I think a lot of my favorite artists are people that do that. They go to a place, they use objects that they find in that place. It's like the found object, but a local found object sort of vocabulary going on. Yeah. And in that, they're trying to deduce a place and like try and make it make sense. But there's a nerve in that too, right? There's a nerve in trying to say you understand a place, period. Even if you've lived there your whole life, you don't necessarily know all the ins and outs of that place. So I was trying to play up, I guess, on my stereotypes or conceptions of this area, which is this idea that like the military is very invested in this area and it's got a long history here, but we're by the beach. So my reflections coming here were always, I'm by the beach, but I don't necessarily feel peace because I see this Navy tanker out there. I see all this like industry going on.
Tell me about that.
Yeah.
That was one of the most beautifully articulated things about here that I've ever heard. Continue.
Yeah. So the idea, I guess, I didn't know what I was going to do when I got here, but I knew that I wanted to just go out and find objects, to be in that conversation, to use that as sort of like a jump off point. So one of the first places me and Asa went was this beach right down the street that had these washed up bricks, which is how that piece you were talking about started. Yeah. Anderson Park. And then we went to a scrapyard, and I just picked up the objects that felt like they had some potential. I was sort of talking about this with Yusuf. It's like you don't necessarily know why the object is saying that something can be done with it. But like as soon as I had everything in that space, all of a sudden every object was like whispering in my ear, like, this is what you need to do to me. This is what you need to do to me. And in that process, it's weird because it's almost not you working, like something is working through you. And I think I'm interested in that for sure, that idea. And so the brick, I'm glad you picked up as like a teddy bear. I was going for sort of like a fish, right?
Okay.
This weird little fish thing made out of this, all the pieces are put together, stuff that we found on the beach, these washed up bricks, put together with joint compound, which is a material I use a lot. And so that was sort of just like a joining mechanism for how to put that all together.
Okay. Awesome. Man, the language. He said the language, your own language. I think about what I get from everything there is the disconnect. Like the first time I saw that was, I don't know how to explain it, but this piece back here, piece back there, the tape. There's tape, and I initially saw it, and I'm taking pictures of the tape and everything, but then what I missed until I got further back was the tape way up top. The disconnect. You know what I mean? And then moving further through the room, and then going into the other space that I didn't even know about, and seeing the razor blades in the walls is like interesting because it's like the disconnect, the booby traps, and I really wanted to.
And I've been watching the Goonies too the last.
So I'm like a big picture person. Like overall, like before I get like to each and every one, like I want to know like the overall thing. Were those booby traps? Go ahead.
Yeah, I mean that's something that's followed my work for a long time. Maybe not even intentionally, but something that's been coming up a lot again recently. Like I was in a crit because I'm in grad school right now, and I was like crit the other week. And the professor at the end was just like, wait a second. Have you ever thought about booby traps? Like said that word for word and was like, you're kind of making booby traps right now.
Yeah.
But that's interesting to me because I'm not, as a creator, necessarily thinking about that. But what I am thinking about frequently is this idea of care and violence and where those two meet. And I think the booby trap kind of speaks to that to a certain extent. So that's one of those things that maybe subliminally is just, coming out as I make these gestures.
Oh my gosh, that's putting too much context. But I think the wild and crazy thing for me is that, Charlie's spent this last week laying all this out, and we've been walking around it and seeing it, and you know what I mean, thinking about it, and Yusuf now has to take that and do something with it, make something out of it, go take it to another place or take it further into the place that it is. I don't know.
Yeah, I think we rarely get these opportunities to talk like this.
Exquisite corpse.
Exquisite corpse. Thank you. And this is rare. It's rare that artists get the opportunity to talk like this through our objects, through our making, and I think that. So for me, and I feel I'm always in a collaborative space, like public art. Working with people from all kind of backgrounds, and but this is a VR. Like we walk in, it's like, hey man, go for it. Like that's rare, man. It's like here's a blank piece of paper. Somebody done scribbled on it already, but that's cool. Yeah. It like helps. You know what I mean? Like that's to be the first person in on this. Like it's like a relay race, right? That first person out. Like if you gotta be going.
Run. Yeah, you gotta run.
And Patricia, she coming in after me, man. That's the what's that the last
anchor.
land, the anchor.
Yeah.
And don't mess up that pass either, right?
Right.
Yeah.
But like and we were talking, Charlie, he's like, I'm older.
Try to dress it up at first, like, you know what? I'm older. Right?
But we're like, I keep learning, from this cat, man. It's just like, and what he keeps telling me is like, nah, man, just like be brave.
Speaking of the work, can you tell me what this is? Can you tell me a little bit about this?
So that is a brick, one of the bricks that we found washed up on the beach. Mm-hmm. There is a threaded rod on top of that all the threads are caked in drywall, joint compound. And then there's a pipe that's also caked in dry compound. Like the inside is blocked by joint compound. And I think oftentimes my entry points into objects is to render them unfunctional in some way, right? And so this threaded rod is no longer serving the purpose because you could not put the nut on there, right? Yeah. It's caked in drywall. And then with the brick, the reason I put joint compound on that was partially knowing that Yusuf was coming. I found a lot of different parts of the work where I could sort of insert this like blank canvas, which maybe he's going to interact with, maybe not. But it's a gesture that's already in my vocabulary. And so it makes sense even if he doesn't. Yeah. But that opportunity is now there for Yusuf to come in and do something with it.
Got you. You were saying a little bit about this part not supposed to be there. Is that what you were saying?
Yeah, there was a period where that pipe in the background was not there, and it was just freestanding.
Okay. That was my fault.
Well, I can't imagine it not being there.
Yeah.
I can't imagine it not being there. Now that I've seen it, obviously. But that and like the top of it, that right there, like I feel like it goes well. I can say it goes well because I don't know what it's supposed to be. It's your work, you know what I mean? But the texture of it and it feels right.
That's interesting, right? When you said you don't know what it's supposed to be. And I wonder, like, does that even matter, right? Like, I think I'm getting to a place where that part really doesn't matter, right? Like, it's in the sense of sometimes this happens to me, right? Like, I'll be driving down the street and I'll see, like, the side of a wall that has fading paint, right? And it looks very interesting. Yeah. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. Right.
And it looks like an abstract painting that was very purposeful. Yeah. But it's not purposeful at all. You know what I mean? Yeah. And I can't even tell what it used to be because it's so faded. But the color combination that it's making and the texture just looks so interesting that you just want to snapshot it or something. Or somebody buffing out graffiti with a strange color paint that makes a weird composition on the wall. You know what I mean?
Your boy T said something today. He was like, there's a psychological view that doesn't, that people tap into without you saying,
like an ink blot almost.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And we've been talking about that a lot. I mean, I think this has been a good experiment for me because something I've been talking about amongst friends, I think we touched on this a little bit, is this idea of like the intellectualization of art, right? And I'm for that. I think it has really strong potential to speak on important things. And a lot of these pieces have an entry point in something like that. But if you can't feel anything from it at the end of the day, like what is it doing? It needs to have like a pulse. It needs to be breathing. Otherwise it's just boring. Like, I don't know. It can contain both. But if it's just purely intellectual and you don't feel anything from it, I think that's where the value starts to get misconstrued.
I can dig that. Yeah. I can dig that. I think I think the emotional power of the art has a lot to do with the artist. You know, I don't know if it was right before the cameras came on. Yusuf asked me about my Tupac playing in the car. And the reason I love Tupac, right, is because I feel like he's the example in a certain generation of what an artist is supposed to be. You know? Like, not as a rapper. You know what I mean? Like, rap is too subjective to talk about who's good and who's the best and all that shit and why. But as an artist, you can look at that, I feel like. Because an artist is supposed to give you themselves, give you their life, let it be something, a spectacle to see. And when I say a spectacle, right, I'm likening the artist to a shaman in the same way that a high priest or a shaman in a tribal community or, you know, a certain type of cultures are also spectacles. You know what I mean? They're there for a very high reason, high purpose, maybe possibly the highest purpose in that, you know, grouping of people, right? But their presence is like a spectacle. And that spectacle draws all the energy to it.